Hello, everyone. Just 3 days before the Scorpio new moon, we are going to have this year's probably most beneficial aspect, the Jupiter-Saturn trine. They have been closing in for quite a while, but then on the 17th, we are going to have the Sun also stepping into the picture, creating a water Grand Trine. And Black Moon Lilith will be conjunct the Sun. So we are going to have a very beneficial, nice energy pattern. Let's take a look at the charts and actually the mythology as well. And first we are going to look at the two gods, Jupiter Zeus and Saturn Kronos. I'm sure you know and you are familiar all with the Greek myth, where out of nothingness, out of the unmanifested matter, chaos, goddess emerges, that is Gaia, the Mother Earth, and she creates a son, Uranus, and with him, together they create all kinds of figures and gods and titans and whatever. It's a curious phenomenon of all kinds of myths and also political parties and political systems that when a new era is setting in, they demonize the ones before. So if you look at the Titans, they are not very nice. And of course, because then Zeus's glory would be dimmed by them. But actually, so when you hear Titan or Titaness, these are the previous gods. And of course, Kronos doesn't really want to be the chief god. He's asked by his mother to castrate Uranus, and this is how he becomes one. But the moment he becomes the chief god, he also clings to power. And when he is given an oracle that he will be also ousted by his own son, he swallows his children one by one. And actually, the last one, Zeus, the sixth one, is not being swallowed simply because the wife Rhea keeps him and gives him a stone instead of to swallow. And this is how Zeus escapes being eaten by his own father, Time. Because, of course, Kronos is time. If we look at the Chaldean planetary system, Kronos, Saturn, is the highest ranking among them. It was, of course, as a planet, it was the last visible planet, and the ancients thought that he was the one to guard the solar system. Behind him, there was only chaos, and that's, of course, Uranus. And how interesting is it that after the telescope was invented, that is what they spotted. I mean, Uranus. I mean, the planet, probably this is why the planet was finally named as Uranus. So anyhow, in astrology, these are the two destiny planets. But let's take a look at the chart itself, which, as I said, is not a particular chart for London or for Budapest or for New York. It doesn't really matter. I chose a space-time moment when the moon in Libra is also around 25 degrees, and just because it really gave us a separate edge of the space-time moment. The same conjunctions are there that have been there for quite a while. The Uranus Sedna and the Chiron Aries are two conjunctions of this year's main karmic astrological features. But actually, the Jupiter-Saturn trine is something that we have been awaiting, because whenever Jupiter and Saturn conjoin in any aspect, it is always about proper balance. And since this is a trine, there is a blessing. Excuse my voice. It's very, very early in Hungary at the moment, and my voice is not really functioning properly. So I apologize. But anyhow, so how can we find proper balance? That is always the question we put whenever there is a Jupiter-Saturn aspect. And in this case, the Sun is joining Black Moon Lilith, which is the third turning point of the Lilith myth. And the archetype itself is actually linked to stamina and endurance and how to do the proper things. So it really gives us help to find this balance between Saturn and Jupiter. Here are the characteristics of the two planets. Jupiter's orbital period is 12 years, and the keywords for Jupiter is, of course, luck, expansion, optimism, growth, self-confidence. It is also linked to faith in one's own abilities, how well you are believing in yourself. And traditionally, it's the greater fortune, fortuna major in Latin. And wherever you find Jupiter in the natal chart, that is a sphere of life where you simply feel lucky. And it's not a money planet. So we don't really consider Jupiter a planet that describes any financial issues. But the fact that you feel good about that particular sphere of life, that you feel lucky, that you have self-confidence there, can actually ensure that you actually make money there as well. But it's not the main characteristic of Jupiter. Saturn, of course, is the polar opposite of Jupiter. It has an orbital period of almost 30 years. But the keywords is burdens, difficulties, limitations, base, how do you create bases, boundaries, how you keep your boundaries, and confinements as well, of course, all kinds of big life lessons that you need to learn. So it's traditionally the planet of greater misfortune, misfortuna major, and the sphere of life is a limited thing in your life, where you can find it in your natal chart. And usually there are two ways to experience that sphere of life. Either you shut it down completely because of fear, because of restrictions, because you have concrete, actual, graspable limitations there, and you don't want to deal with it. You just shut it off. Or you put a lot of energy and effort into it, and it might become your most successful sphere of life, but with extra energy and extra effort only. So from the outside, they can think, oh, you are wonderful. You are so lucky that you can speak 3 languages, third house Saturn. Or, oh, you have beautiful children, fifth house Saturn. Yes, but you know how difficult it was to achieve. So it will always be some sort of burden or limitation in your natal chart. And their conjunction is what we call the opening of the great gates. This is a medieval concept, and in medieval astrology, there are 2 types of gates. When the souls can travel, can migrate from other higher dimensions into the earth plane. The lesser gates or smaller gates are the lunations of new moon and full moon. This is what we traditional souls or everyday souls are using. And the great gates are the great conjunctions of Jupiter and Saturn every 20 years. And that is when the big avatars are coming, or the big souls who have really big issues here on the earth plane, like Buddha and Jesus and all those big um, 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 any figure that you consider a leader, a spiritual leader for mankind. Let's put it this way. I didn't want to go into religious aspects of this, but it does have a religious aspect as well. The last conjunction was on December 21st, 2020. It was already in air signs at 1 degree 29 Aquarius, and with it, we opened a new era for the conjunctions, because before that, the last 280 years had the conjunction in Earth signs, except for 81, when Jupiter and Saturn made a little trip into air signs. It was in Gemini, but this was an era for Earth conjunctions. So the reset of balance happened on earthly matters, let's put it this way. Anything that is linked to the earth energy as a sign. And now we are opening another 280-year period in air signs. So it will be about ideologies, about knowledge, about technology, anything that is linked to air, and anything that is linked to the human mind. it will be interesting to see what this will bring us. Let's take a look at the chart on the 17th, and there are a number of celestial objects at 24, 26 degrees, creating a lot of aspects, and of course creating a complex planetary picture. First and foremost is the Grand Trine, the water Grand Trine, with Sun and Black Moon Lilith on the in one corner in Scorpio, and Jupiter and Saturn. So this is wonderful because actually it gives us a conscious knowledge about how to create balance. And if you look around in the world, this is what we badly need. I mean, the war between Ukraine and Russia is still raging. One reason for it is because we are pumping a lot of energy and money and weapons into Ukraine. And of course, they were given the order to fight until the last man. And this can very well become the case, unfortunately. And the corruption within the highest ranks of the Ukrainian leadership is really interesting. I mean, I don't know how this came out, but certainly I think this was done by the US probably the CIA. I have no idea who linked it or leaked it actually. But of course, this is very well known. Corruption is something of everyday life, just like bakshish is the means to get along in everyday life. In for instance, in Egypt, corruption is something that is just inherent in Ukrainian society, unfortunately. And this is something that maybe Westerners don't even understand. So this is something that was already kind of an issue to reset the balance. I think this is why it came out. Of course, it could be that they want to get rid of Zelensky, who is the man of course, the superpower of the city. And if you take a look at what's happening in world politics, what you can see is that they are trying to create the new world order. There's some kind of new era is setting in. The 2026 aspects and also the charts for the relevant charts for 2026 are suggesting something that. And there are two powers really fighting. One wants to set a new balance, some kind of new world order that is on proper balance and some kind of future for mankind. And this would be an alliance between Russia, the United States, and China on mutual understanding and agreement. But the city who is behind the old power and the old structures who want to keep their power no matter what, they still think that they can conquer Russia. And by that, they can actually put their hands on the Russian assets. And I'm not talking about the money in foreign banks. I'm talking about the natural assets, which they always wanted. They always coveted it. And of course, they do everything in their power to do that. And that would be a different superpower because then they would extend Europe until I don't know, Moscow or something like that, and annex whatever is there and create Europe, making Europe great again with some sort of military power, of course. I don't know what will happen. I don't think that Europe could be created into an empire pretty soon, simply because there are such diverse people. The United States was very, very different. People went there on their own volition. They left their own country and they really entered freely and willingly into the melting pot. You can't do this in Europe unless you force it. And I don't think you can force people. And not to speak of the fact that any kind of empire that is using force is always the most expensive. So if you want some kind of tyrant military militant-based thing, it's going to cost a lot of money, and I don't think it's worth it. But we will see. So this is a space-time moment, and then, as I said, the Grand Trine gives us hope that some kind of balance could be reset. There's also cardinal T-square in the space-time moment with the Moon in Libra actually, and the Jupiter and Chiron and Aries. So the moon is highlighting the Chiron Aries conjunction, highlighting the horrors of war and the pain that it is, the drastically altered outward circumstances is causing. And these circumstances, of course, they are not natural. Of course, they are man-made. They are actual and man-made. And at the apex of it, which is Jupiter, which you could actually link Jupiter to greed as well. Nothing is ever enough. Okay, there's also a tense trapeze between, this is the tense trapeze with two squares as the sides, the trine, the Sun Jupiter trine as the base, and the Lilith, the asteroid Lilith, Chiron Aries conjunction as its top. And of course, these are two intertwined engines. One is a cardinal water engine, and the other one is a fixed. Hold on one second. Fixed water. That's also a fixed water engine. So those are the ones that are creating this trapeze. There's also a platform. A platform is similar to a trapeze, but it's much less high. And actually, you can step on it. That is why it's the platform. So the sides are always semi-sextiles. And this includes the two luminaries, Saturn and Chiron Aries. And there's also a little engine with Jupiter, Chiron Aries, and Lilith. Here it is, and a tiny angel wing. At the apex of which there's Saturn. So if you take a look at the whole, you have the two luminaries. You have two Liliths actually, which are squaring each other. Asteroid Lilith is revolt against injustice, and Black Moon Lilith is the resolution of the whole thing when Lilith goes back into the Garden of Eden and rectifies things. There's the two so-called destiny planets, Jupiter, which brings luck, and Saturn, which brings burdens. The Chiron Aries, which is the karmic wounds resurfacing because of drastically altered outward circumstances. So that's those are the main issues. And we do have some transcendental celestial objects. Again, they are color-coded. At the moment, there are no centaurs or TNOs, which are usually blue, only asteroids, which denote the personal karmic levels, and fixed stars, which are universal, which are not part of the solar system. They are part of the universe. So they're actually not describing human issues. They are beyond human energies, much higher. And they bring us potentials. I always say that if you read traditional astrology books that have a chapter on fixed stars, you read horror stories. They really link all kinds of fixed stars to blindness and death by hanging or water or suicide or things like that. And believe me, stars cannot bring anything bad. What we could do is we can utilize them in a bad way, but they don't cause anything. They are not the cause, the root cause of anything bad. We are just human beings, and we don't know how to utilize them. Anyhow, on the Sun Black Moon conjunction, you have Nephthys, Arachne, and Hel. Hel is the goddess, the underworld goddess in Norse mythology. Arachne is a hubris asteroid. She was a mortal woman who was able to create beautiful tapestries, but she was punished by Pallas Athena, who she would not worship, and she was turned into a spider. And Nephthys is an interesting character because she is the wife of Seth, who is of course the dark. These are the dark twins, and Osiris and Isis are the light twins, carrying the light energy. And Nephthys is what I call the mafia wife, who knows perfectly well what or who her husband is, but nevertheless, she stands there and backs up her husband. On the moon, you have Karma. Yes, this moment is quite karmic. And two beautiful, brilliant stars, Spica and Arcturus, both alpha stars, and we are going to look at them in a minute. On the asteroid Lilith, again, you have two beautiful bright stars, Deneb Algadi, which is the delta star of Capricorn, denoting steadiness and strength, and Sada Sud, the luckiest of the luckies, which is Beta Aquarius. And these stars are quite near each other in the sky, so you can actually observe them. And here are, at the same time, Spica and Arcturus. As you can see, Spica, the alpha star of Virgo, is on the ecliptic. So actually anything can really be conjunct with Spica. And actually the moon is quite near at the moment. But yeah, since it's on the ecliptic, yes, it's possible to be conjunct with it. But Arcturus is up to the north. It's Alpha Boots, and it's a very bright star. It's really beautiful and far from the ecliptics. So actually, nothing can be conjunct with it. And this is why Bernadette Brady, way back in 2006, so almost 20 years ago, suggested that we should use, instead of conjunction, we should use the word alignment. Because if it's, for instance, very up north or very down south, nothing can be conjuncted in the physical sense. And this is the same thing. At the same time, it is on the same astrological degree. So that is, those are the two stars on the moon at the moment. That is it. I think this was the last slide. Anyhow, oh, what did I do anyhow? Okay, this is what I wanted. Anyhow, so it is an interesting pattern. I chose the moment when the sun is joining them to create this water Grand Trine, but the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction will be within O for quite a few days, and you can utilize it in your own life to set the proper balance back and to do it with enthusiasm, with faith, and with proper discipline, because Saturn is also discipline, and Jupiter is also faith. Thank you for listening. May balance be with you. Bye-bye.